Hi, today we are looking at section 7.3, which is solving quadratic equations by graphing. So in this section, we'll be utilizing our graphs of quadratics to come up with a couple of solutions. So a reminder that quadratic equation is a polynomial equation of the second degree. What that means is our largest exponent is a 2. If this was a third degree, our largest would be a 3. So technically, a quadratic is a degree 2 because we have a largest exponent of a 2. It takes the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. A reminder that a cannot equal 0 because if a equals 0, that means we no longer have our x squared term. Instead, we'd have bx plus c, which is a linear function. Another definition is 0. So often in this section, you'll be asked to find the zeros. So in a function, the value of a variable that makes our equation equal to 0 is our 0. Now, this is also sometimes called our root. Now we can find the values of x that make our function equal 0 by graphing our function and recording the x values where the graph crosses the x-axis. So the reason why these values work is if we're crossing our x-axis, that means our y value equals 0. So for example, we want to graph x or solve for zeros for x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0. We're going to graph that and find our zeros from our graph. So I've got x, I've got y is equal to x squared plus 5x plus 6. I'll start with -3, go to +3. If needed, we'll change these up a bit. So for first one, I've got -3 squared plus 5 times -3 plus 6. -3 squared is 9. 5 times -3 is -15. So 9 minus 15 is -6 plus 6 is 0. Next, we have -2 squared plus 5 times -2 plus 6. So -2 squared is 4. 5 times -2 is -10. So we've got 4 minus 10 is -6 plus 6 is 0. Next, we have -1 squared plus 5 times -1 plus 6. So -1 squared is 1. 5 times -1 is -5. 1 minus 5 is -4. Plus 6 gives us 2. Next, we've got 0, so 0 squared plus 5 times 0 plus 6 gives us 6. Next, we'll do 1, so 1 squared plus 5 times 1 plus 6. So that'd be 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 6 gives us 12. We're starting to go off a graph, so we will do some more negative numbers. So let's say do -4 and -5. So we'd have -4 squared plus 5 times -4 plus 6. -4 squared is 16. 5 times -4 is -20. So 16 minus 20 is -4 plus 6 is 2. Next, we have -5 squared plus 5 times -5 plus 6. So I'll be 25 minus 25 is 0 plus 6 is 6. So plot these at -3. We're at 0, -2, we're at 0, -1, we're at 2, 0, we're at 6. One, we're at 12, so we're off our grid. -4, we're at 2. -5, we're at 6. So our graph looks something like this. Now, like I mentioned before, we're looking for our x-intercepts. So our solutions would be x is equal to -3 and -2, because they are the values of x that make our equation equal to 0. Yeah, so we have another one. We've got x squared plus x minus 12 equals 0. So once again, we will do a table of values. I'll start with the usual -3 to +3. So we have -3 squared plus -3 minus 12. So -3 squared is 9. Minus 3 would be 6. Minus 12 gives us -6. Next, we have -2. So -2 squared plus -2 minus 12. So -2 squared is 4. Minus 2. So this gives us -10. Then we have -1 squared plus -1 minus 12. So -1 squared is 1 minus 1 cancels on a 0. So we've got -12. Next, we have 0 squared plus 0 minus 12. So that gives us -12. Next, we have 1 squared plus 1 minus 12. So that gives us -10. Next, we have 2 squared plus 2 minus 12. So 2 squared is 4 plus 2 is 6. Minus 12 gives us -6. Next, we have 3 squared plus 3 minus 12. So 3 squared is 9 plus 3 is 12 minus 12 is 0. So we'll plot what we have so far. So at -3, we are at -6. -2, we are at -10. -1, we are at -12. 0, we're at -12. 1, we're at -10. 2, we're at -6. 3, we are at 0. So far, our parabola is looking something like this. However, I realize I made a bit of a mistake. At 3, I was supposed to be at 0. I marked it 4, so we'll just fix that quickly. We also don't know precisely where it crosses over here, so what we will do is do another point to see if it crosses here or over here. So we went to -3, so I might do -4. So I've got -4 squared plus -4 minus 12. So -4 squared is 16. Minus 4 is 12. Minus 12 is 0. So at -4, we're crossing. So our answers would be our x-intercepts here. So we have x is equal to -4 and +3. Now, if you have an equation that does not equal 0 and we're asking for the zeros or solution, what we want to do is move all the terms to one side before we attempt to graph it. Now, it doesn't matter which side we move it to. If we move everything to one particular side, it'll open upwards. If we move everything to the other side, it'll open downwards, but either graph will have the same x-intercepts. So the same zeros. So we have 2x squared plus 5x minus 6 equals x squared plus 6x plus 10. So our first step will be rewriting and reorganizing this. Now, like I mentioned before, it doesn't matter what side we move everything to, it's still going to have the same x-intercepts, but what side we move everything to will determine which direction it opens, and I tend to find there's usually less mistakes making if our x squared term is positive. So if I move this to the other side, I'm subtracting 2x squared, which would make this negative because we'd have 1 minus 2, which gives us -1. So instead, I will move everything from this side to this side. So minus x squared minus 6x minus 10. So that gives us x squared minus x minus 16 is equal to 0. Now that we have everything on one side, we will graph this. We'll go from our usual -3 to +3. And we've got y is equal to x squared minus x minus 16. So we've got -3 squared minus -3 minus 16. So -3 squared is 9. Minusing a negative means we're adding, so +3. So that'd be 12. Minus 16 would give us -4. Next, we have -2 squared minus -2 minus 16. So -2 squared is 4. We're subtracting -2, so that's the same as adding 2, so that'll be 6. Minus 16 would give us -10. Next, we have -1, so we've got -1 squared minus -1 minus 16. So -1 squared is 1, minus -1 would be 2, minus 16 gives us -14. Next, we've got 0, so 0 squared minus 0 minus 16 gives us -16. Next, we've got 1, so 1 squared minus 1 minus 16 gives us -16. Next, we have 2 squared minus 2 minus 16. So 2 squared is 4, minus 2 is 2. Minus 16 gives us -14. Next, we have 3, so 3 squared minus 3 minus 16. 3 squared is 9, minus 3 is 6, minus 16 is -10. So we've done our regular -3 to +3, but we still haven't found any x-intercepts, so we should probably do some more points. So I might say do 4, 5, and then -4, and we'll see if that covers things. So we've got 4 squared minus 4 minus 16. 4 squared is 16. Minus 4 is 12. Minus 16 is -4. Next, we've got 5 squared minus 5 minus 16. So 5 squared is 25. Minus 5 is 20. Minus 16 is 4. Next, we have -4. So we've got -4 squared minus -4 minus 16. So -4 squared is 16. Minus a negative, so that's 20. Minus 16 gives us 4. So we will plot these out. Now, because we have some fairly large numbers here, we are going to change the scale on our y-axis. So essentially, every block going up is or down is going to be worth 2. Now we'll keep our regular scale on the horizontal. Okay, so at -3, we are at -4. So at -3, we are down at -4. Then at -2, we are at -10. Then at -1, we're at -14. 0, we're at -16. 1, we're at -16. 2, we're at -14. 3, we're at -10. 4, we're at -4. 5, we are at 4. And then -4, we're at 4. So our graph looks something like this. Now, this example, unlike the previous examples, have our line crossing where it's not a whole number. So that means what we have to do is essentially estimate where this crosses. So for example, I might say this is -1 to 3.7. And then this one I might say is, say, 4.6, because it looks like it's just after the halfway mark. So my answer would be x equals -3.7 as well as 4.6.